All right. Good afternoon and welcome, small business leaders and community members, to Congressman John Lewis's Georgia 5th District Small Business Webinar. My name is Alicia Ivy, and I will serve as your community small business moderator. Today, we have over 300 members online with us today. Thank you for being here with us for this very important discussion. But first, on behalf of Congressman John Lewis and myself, excuse me. But first, on behalf of Congressman John Lewis and myself, let me take the opportunity to sincerely thank all the small businesses throughout America because of you, brick by brick, you have invested in our community, and now we are here for you. We know that the needs are urgent, and during this very critical time, it is important to hear from trusted voices in our community. Before I take the time to introduce our panelists, I have the distinct opportunity to introduce an unwavering champion for all American people, Congressman John Lewis. If it were not for Congressman Lewis, I, like many others, would not have the opportunity to be in business today. After many years, Congressman Lewis is still on the battlefield for civil and economic rights for all Americans. Always reminds us to never give up, not to give in, and to always keep the faith. Congressman Lewis, thank you for hosting this very important webinar, and we'd like to hear your message today for all the small businesses during this unprecedented time. Congressman Lewis, are you with us?
Yes, thank you very, very much for those kind words of introduction.
Thank you
so much for taking the time to be here to chair this unbelievable gathering, over 300 people. Let me just say to each and every one of you, thank you for doing what you do to help make our city, our state, and our country a better place. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to join today's briefing. In particular, I would like to thank our standing moderator and speakers for sharing helpful information on how your businesses can stay above water. These are difficult days. These are trying days. They're trying each and one of us, but we must not lose ourselves in a sea of despair. We must keep the faith and keep our eyes on the prize. As small business owners, you work so hard to build a dream. Every day, not just one day, but every day, you show up in our community. Every day, you help make Metro Atlanta the powerful economic engine of our state, our region, and the entire country. Every day, you create the opportunity for countless workers to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. Many of you joined this call in search of answers. Tomorrow, the House will consider the Paycheck Protection Program Increase Act to provide more support for small businesses. We know that more will be needed, but this bill will put us back on track. I'm here for you, like so many others. My staff is here for you. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We will do all we can to help you during these trying times. As I continue to say, don't give up, don't give in. Keep the faith and keep your eyes on the prize. In a few moments, you will hear from experts who are prepared to share resources and knowledge to assist you and your employees. I know that many of you are frustrated and concerned, but we must stay grounded. We must not give up. Each and every one of us must cling to the hope and the faith that has carried us so far. Many years ago, I never gave up. I never gave in. I kept the faith. I kept my eyes on the prize. And I want to encourage each one of you to stay strong. We are Georgia strong. We are America strong as we prepare for the journey and the work ahead. Thank you for your time, your hard work, and your unbelievable leadership. I believe in you, and hundreds and thousands and millions of other people believe in you. And together, working together, pulling together, we will prevail. And I turn it back over to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Congressman Lewis. We are eternally grateful for your leadership and your unwavering commitment to all Americans. But today, we have assembled experts and leaders in our community to provide firsthand information, tools, and resources to assist small business owners facing the COVID-19 crisis. But most importantly, to pass and provide a path forward to get the critical help that's needed. So let's get right to it. Today, we have the following panelists with us. Mr. Ashley Bell, Regional Director of the Small Business Administration. Ms. Terry Dennison, the Small Business Administration. Commissioner Natalie Hall, the Fulton County Commission. Mr. Jason O'Rourke, the Atlanta Federal Reserve. Mr. Chris Clark, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Eloisa Pimenche, Invest Atlanta. Mr. George Andrews, Unity National Bank. Ms. Ruby Rinsinger, the Small Business Development Center. And last, but certainly not least, Commissioner Mark Butler, the Georgia Department of Labor. Thank you all for being with us today. Mr. Bell, can you give our small business leaders an overview from the SBA and what to expect in the future?
Thank you for that introduction. I wanted to say I appreciate the invitation. Thank you for everyone who put this together. Thank you, Congressman Lewis, for your continued years of service. And for one, this is a great opportunity for me to be on this call as not only a panelist, but as someone who owns a small business in this congressional district. So I definitely share this journey with everyone in Atlanta as we seek to find answers, as we seek to find the resources we need to continue our journey to support the people we believe in and to provide services and goods to our community. The SBA is at the forefront of this COVID crisis when it comes to economic recovery. I want to talk briefly about where we've been and what we've done and what's to come. And even after I get off this webinar, Terry Dennison, who is the director of the state of Georgia, will be on as well to continue to answer questions on behalf of the Small Business Administration. We're proud to say that in the last 14 days, SBA has lent more money than it has lent out in the last 14 years. We're a small agency, but now we have a big job. That big job has allowed us to put over $9 billion back into the Georgia economy through the payroll protection program, of which we're so grateful to have Congressman Lewis's support. That $9 billion was applied for and approved by almost 50,000 business owners in the state of Georgia. That money went really fast. And part of the reason it went really fast is because not only are small businesses eligible to apply, but also nonprofits. And 2 Saturdays ago, the White House announced that there would be an expansion of the program that extended out to a new group of applicants that had never before seen an ability to participate in this program. And that's our churches. So for the very first time, small churches, any church under 500 people, can also apply for the payroll protection program. That's important because we all know the value of our churches. We know the doors of the church have been open to all of us for all these years. And now it's time for us and the lenders to open their doors to them. Our lenders have been especially important to this process. We would not have been able to get this amount of money out of the door so quickly if it wasn't for the support of our lenders. But we need more lenders. We need to increase the pie as far as how many people are eligible to participate and how many lenders are available for them to go to. We know there's been some frustrations as it comes to having pathways to access to capital. And here's what we're doing to increase that. So not only are we looking at traditional lenders, which are your depository institutions where you can get the PPP program in next round, but we're also looking at CDFIs. You're going to see an increased leaning on community development financial institutions. They're mission-based. They serve underserved communities. But also for all of our fellow entrepreneurs who are in the gig economy, if you're in the gig economy, you use Square, Cabbage, or other fintech tools, we're now increasing the PPP program to fintech. So fintech also will be eligible to help you process a PPP loan. This is how we'll increase access to capital for all Americans, and especially those who traditionally don't have relationships with depository institutions. We hope that this allows us to increase our access to service to you. And thank you so much for having me today. And I look forward to continuing our relationship and support of all the work that the Congressman is doing to continue to support small businesses.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bell. Ms. Dennison, thank you so much for your leadership. Some people still don't understand the PPP program. Can you give us an overview of that program and the application process?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. And good afternoon, everyone. The Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, is a loan program that is delivered in conjunction with participating lenders, as Ashley mentioned earlier. The purpose of the loan is to encourage small businesses or enable them to be able to maintain their employee staffing levels or bring people back that they may have had to let go because of the current economic downturn. The idea behind this loan is that it's a forgivable loan if some certain conditions are met. First and foremost, as the name of the program suggests, payroll protection. So you would cover payroll for your staff for a period of 8 weeks after the loan is dispersed. If those levels are maintained, in terms of number of employees and employee cost, then that loan can be forgiven. At least 75% of the forgiven value has to cover payroll and related expenses. The remaining 25% can cover other costs for that business, such as monthly lease payments for their space. If they're purchasing the space, can cover the interest on the mortgage and other utility bills. In terms of if the part of the loan that's not forgiven, if that would be the case, you would have 2 years to repay, and the interest on that loan would be 1%. Maximum is up to 10 million, and that would be the basics of that particular program. As Ashley mentioned earlier, not only are small business owners able to take advantage of this, but nonprofit organizations that are 501c3 or veteran organizations, which is 501c19. Those nonprofits can take advantage, and then faith-based organizations and institutions can take advantage of it as well.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dennison. And also, people have a lot of questions regarding the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Can you just give us a brief overview of that program as well for those who need more in-depth information?
Sure. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL, or EIDL, we refer to it by all three, is not unique to the CARES Act. It has been a standard part of the SBA's offering in times of disaster for many decades. This is actually a direct loan made by the SBA through our Office of Disaster Assistance. It covers a lot of the same things PPP covers in terms of payroll, but it can also cover accounts payable, utilities, other fixed costs that still exist, even though that business is in a position that it cannot fully operate and have the revenue stream that it normally would because of an economic disruption from a disaster. In this case, it would be, of course, the COVID-19. These loans are up for 30 years. You can, let's see, the interest rate is 3.75%. on existing, not existing, but 3.75% for profit organizations. For nonprofit organizations, it's 2.75%. There is no pre-payment penalty should you choose to pay it off ahead of time. And there's an automatic, in this particular case, there's an automatic, deferral on the payment. Normally you have to apply for that, but in this particular case, it's automatically granted a 1-year deferral before repayment has to begin. And those loans are available through mid-December.
Thank you so much. So where can organizations get a status or update on the EIDL, and how long is the process taking, Ms. Dennison, from application to distribution?
Well, that's one that, as you can imagine, we've been, the agency has been inundated with applications. I think as our administrator put, we've processed more loans in the past 14 days than we have over the past 14 years in some cases between the two programs. On the EIDL, we do offer the customer service number and customer service email address. I know they've been inundated, so the district office has been helping out. What we've asked people to do, if they haven't heard anything from us, from the agency, to email the district office here at Georgia, spelled out, georgia@sba.gov. And we will try to run interference with the Office of Disaster Assistance to assist them in getting a status. Unfortunately, we do not have that information directly.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, tell us some important things you think that small businesses need to know moving forward during this crisis. Mr. Bell, are you with us?
Me.
Okay, I think Mr. Bell has left from us. So, okay, Commissioner Hall, I'll go on to you. I know that Fulton County has been on the front line of helping small businesses during this time. So tell us a little bit about what efforts has been ongoing in Fulton County.
Well, first, Alicia, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be on this call this afternoon, and thank you to Congressman Lewis. He is a real champion. You know, we know that many of our small businesses have been hit the hardest with COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm honored to be able to take part in this conversation and share a lot of information about what Fulton County is doing. My district is in the heart of Atlanta, and I have all of the downtown neighborhoods, all the attractions, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Bellwood Quarry, Charlie Brown Airport, and so much more. And so it's important to me that we do what we can do in the area of small businesses. We actually passed by a unanimous vote of all the commissioners a resolution 20-0270 for anyone who wants to look it up on the fultoncountyga.gov website. We passed it on April 1st at the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, and it was for our Board of Commissioners to allocate emergency funding in the amount of $10 million to provide emergency support for community-related services such as senior services programs, homelessness assistance, economic stabilization, poverty remediation, and other community development services impacted by COVID-19. What we did is a portion of that $10 million is allocated towards small businesses for, it's like an emergency loan program, $1.5 million allocated towards small business relief loans. Additionally, the great news is the Development Authority, shortly after we approved our resolution, approved a partner with ACE as well to administer an additional $1.5 million in small business loans, including those in the city of Atlanta, because when the Board of Commissioners approved the first $10 million and 1.5 of that to small businesses, we had excluded the city of Atlanta. And of course, you know, with my district being entirely in the city of Atlanta, I was not standing for that. So the Development Authority of Fulton County came through and they said City of Atlanta small businesses would be included in their allocation. And so now we are covering the entire Fulton County with small business loans for relief.
That's wonderful.
Yes, and you know, the good thing about it is applicants who have experienced a loss in revenue or service disruption from COVID-19, they can receive up to $50,000 in emergency working capital. And all they need to qualify is to be in business at least 2 years. The application process is online, which makes it really simple. Businesses are asked to provide documentation to ACE. They can fax it, email it, or mail it in. And there's a link that they can go to. They can actually click the Learn More link at aceloans.org/DAFC to apply online. Now, I have been told that we were overwhelmed with a lot of applications.
I'm sure.
And so they've halted the process to go through the applications and then see how much money is left over. And I really believe that we're gonna need a lot more money. I mean, everyone has been impacted significantly in a negative way because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I don't want to stop there. I do want to also address the fact that we have entrepreneurs who have fallen on hard times during this crisis that have nonprofit organizations. And those I consider those small businesses as well, but they're just 501c3s. And the county has allocated funding for that because, as you know, we need more testing. We need more food. We have seniors who are suffering. They don't have access to food or transportation.
Yes.
So we have allocated $10 million toward nonprofits. Mercy Care received $200,000 to help us do testing. Within 1 week, they tested 1,600 people.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing.
Yes,
That's
yes.
amazing.
And so it was a help to Fulton County because we set up a testing site at our Fulton Aviation Center, and that testing site was the only site that we had, and it's all the way on the west side, on the northwest side by Charlie Brown Airport, and the people were just rolling in. So we have given a lot to our partners. Some of those partners are Piccadilly to do meals, Project Open Hand, Quality Learning Services, National Church Residences for housing, and so many more.
Thank you so much. Commissioner, can you please repeat that link for us again? Because I know that it's important for everyone to get that information.
Oh, absolutely. So the link for Fulton County was aceloans.org/Fulton. And then the one for the Development Authority of Fulton County was aceloans.org/DAFC.
Thank you so very much for that overview. And thank you for the leadership of Fulton County Commissioners. I'm going to turn to Jason O'Rourke from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. What role is the Federal Reserve's role in supporting small businesses?
So thank you very much for having us. And I just want to start off with one quick caveat. We're actually in a Federal Open Market Committee blackout period, so I can't say anything about monetary policy, which is what we normally would love to talk about. But just want to make that clear in front of everybody. But what I can say is I can answer that question. There's three things that we're really making sure we're doing right now. One is the commitment to the core mission. So the core mission of the Federal Reserve, as the job that Congress gave us, is to promote maximum employment and stable prices and to protect the stability of the financial system. Another thing that we really are doing right now is ensuring the business continuity of the Fed and making sure that providing cash, providing electronic payments, and all those types of essential services that the Fed runs can make their way through the financial system so that as close as possible, businesses can continue to conduct their actions and not worry about things like cash shortages or receiving payments just because of some log jams in the system. One other thing that sort of the Fed primarily focuses on in these times like these is keeping the core markets functioning. Mm-hmm. And when I say markets, I don't mean the stock markets. We're talking about more of the financial markets where the Federal Reserve is able to inject cash into the system to ensure that those businesses who need credit have the ability to access it because the financial institutions are receiving new volumes of credit from the Federal Reserve. So what we don't want to see in times of crisis like this is businesses who don't have the ability to refinance their debt, access to some new forms of credit. The Fed is able to help sort of keep that system flowing so that businesses out there can continue to work with their lenders and their financial institutions to the extent that they can refinance any debt they might have.
That is so important. That's very important. Thank you so much. Please tell us more.
So a couple of things that are sort of interesting and I think relevant to this audience specifically is we're working with consumers and small businesses, and we're working in partnership with our other regulators to make sure that banks have the tools that they need to assist the impacted borrowers and their customers. We've already seen actions by banks of all sizes to roll out these contingency programs, including payment deferrals. In normal times, the Fed would, look to a financial institution and, maybe be a little critical of things like missed mortgage payments and, interest payments, things like that. But during times like these, as a regulator, we're able to say, look, the best way that you can support your clients and the best way you can help to make the economy still function well is to be more lenient during these times. So there's a regulatory side that the Fed can play in that. The other piece that the Fed is really stepping up on this, and it's new, is what we're calling the Main Street Lending Program. And so this is a totally new area of work for the Federal Reserve as of April 2020. And it's going to it's not fully operational yet, but it's been announced through the CARES Act that was passed by Congress and in partnership with the Treasury Department. The Main Street Lending Program will enhance the support for small and mid-sized businesses that were in good financial standing before the crisis. So these are the businesses who have done everything that they should have been doing and been cautious and were in maybe even a growth mode before the recent events.
Right.
And so it offers four-year loans to companies employing up to 10,000 workers and revenue $2.5 billion. So although those are much bigger numbers than probably a lot of people on this call would have, the goal is to say that's the biggest possible company that would participate in this program. And so participants will defer principal and interest payments for 1 year, and the payable terms can go as far as 4 years for repayment. So businesses who are going to be going through this program will apply through their bank, and the goal is to commit to making reasonable efforts to maintain their payroll and retain workers. So this program is really designed for those businesses who are otherwise quite successful and doing well, and they really need a bridge to get from the beginning of this crisis back to something that looks like normal business operations. And they just need some new sources of credit to help them bridge that gap.
That's extremely important. And thank you so much for that overview. Mr. Clark, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce is a very important organization to businesses across the state of Georgia. Tell us what kind of efforts have the Chamber spearheaded in response to the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, thank you for having us today. And thank you, Congressman Lewis. We appreciate your untiring legacy and your focus and faith in small business and all you've done. We appreciate your work. We really do. Our job has been twofold at the Georgia Chamber. One is to provide information and resources for all the business of the state of Georgia, to work with our local chamber so you can understand exactly what's happening and be a one-stop shop. And the other part is to continue to lobby. So we've been lobbying for the last week and a half to help the congressman get PPE passed, get it in, through the Senate back to the House so we can get that money back out so Ashley can spend it and help us spend it and get it back to all of our businesses in Georgia. We've also spent a lot of time of building out a website. It's called gachamber.com/COVID-19, gachamber.com/COVID-19, where you can find all these resources, everything the SBA has, all those programs updated, what OSHA's telling you, unemployment insurance information. But what what I really want to take a minute is talk about the new executive order that the governor signed yesterday, because I've spent all day talking to small businesses literally all over Georgia about exactly what that means for them. And so let me try to put it in perspective for you. First of all, this is not a mandate. There are a lot of small businesses out there that say, I'm not ready to return yet. I'm not ready to start having, customers come into my restaurant. You don't have to. No one's making you do that. What's the most important thing for Georgia businesses, for the small businesses on this call, is that you take care of the health and well-being of your employees and your customers. And when you decide to come back, when you decide to take that baby step to warm up, to get back in the race, do it carefully and follow the guidelines. We've just released a document earlier today that has the 20 guidelines from the governor's office that were written by the CDC that says if you're going to operate, if you're one of these 13 new business sectors, about 20,000 businesses, if you want to start back on Friday, you must follow these rules and regulations. And if you do that, you can continue to grow, and then the governor will continue to turn up the ability for businesses to operate as the data and the science says. And if the data and the science changes, he'll turn it back down, and we'll go back to where we were. But we are in the middle still of a shelter in place. And so even if you do open up your doors, know that people still might not be able to come. But it is good to be able, I think, psychologically to get back in your businesses. These 13 business sectors haven't been able to open, haven't been able to do anything for the last 3 weeks. And so just being able to find a way forward, I think is positive. I know there's been a lot of questions from people, particularly in the cosmetology sector, about how am I supposed to cut somebody's hair if I got to be 6 feet away? Well, we've just posted on our website those guidelines. The cosmetology board said, here's how you can do it. Here's the legal way to do it and the safe way to do it. And then we'll continue to post those rules and recommendations over the next few days at gachamber.com so you can know exactly how to operate in a safe way. But at the end of the day, businesses have to take responsibility. And if you don't feel you can provide safety, don't take that chance. Don't put someone at risk. But if you can and you feel confident doing it, work your way up, measurable, methodical, so that you continue to practice. Because listen, if you do something that would hurt the reputation of your business, or someone were to get sick, you've lost the faith of the general public at that point, and you're going to hurt your business over the long term. So I'd encourage you to go carefully, slowly, follow the rules, regulations, the guidelines, go above and beyond what the minimums are, so you're doing the best thing. But you can continue to go to our website, and that's what we're going to continue to do, is lobby on your behalf, not just for the resources that Congressman Lewis is going to pass tomorrow, but also what's going to happen during the recession. We're going to have lots of local and state and federal legislation to help jumpstart business over the long term and survive this recession. And that's part of our job too, Ms. Alicia, is to help government know what businesses need so they can be successful. So I'd encourage you to plug in with your local chamber or with our organization and let us know what resources you need so we can share those with our elected leaders.
Thank you so much, Chris. We have a question for you, Chris, from Jack Hillman, and he just wanted to know, again, what are the links at the Georgia Chamber for these business practices that you're talking about, because he wants to know, he finds it helpful, and he wants to make sure that he gets that information.
So it's gachamber.com/COVID-19, or you can just go to gachamber.com and click on the COVID-19 button. And if you have any of your constituents that speak Spanish, you can go to the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is our partner, and they have all that information in Spanish. Make that easy for you.
That is amazing. That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, very much, Mr. Clark. Dr. Eloise Clemente, we know that Invest Atlanta has been a leader helping small businesses during this time with resources and guidance available through Invest Atlanta. Please tell us a little bit about what Invest Atlanta has been doing, because you all have been doing some remarkable work.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And again, I want to thank the Congressman for inviting Invest Atlanta and the City of Atlanta. It's really an honor to be here with such a stellar panel, to all my panelists. So the City of Atlanta has really been focused through both the mayor and the council on how we as a city not only handle the current situation, but how do we look to recovery. But the first step was the city council and the mayor approved a $7 million allocation to help address the COVID response. And in that, there was 1.5 million that went to business continuity loan fund. And these funds were specifically, they were out fast. I have to tell you, in Invest Atlanta's history, were we able to deploy a program like this in 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Create the program, had the money out in the field, and really just making impact. So again, it was our ability and commitment to make sure that we were very nimble and got it out very quickly, and that's just a result of the team. And so I want to, this takes a good team to be able to do that. But where we stand now is we are at about 37 loans have been approved and They're either at some point in the closing process, but that represents almost 1.1 million. So we should be done with our funds probably by the end of this week, if not next week. So those funds will be out. So again, it's looking to see, we're working with our philanthropic partners, our nonprofits, to see if there's anyone else that can help contribute, and any banking institutions to try to help provide more funds out on the field, because what we're hearing is cash flow. Businesses are tight now on cash flow, and so they need to make sure that they can survive this very difficult time. I will put a couple other things that I think are important to mention. The second is that WorkSource Atlanta, if you are in the city of Atlanta, and if you're not in the city, there's other WorkSource entities throughout the entire state, or WorkSource Georgia, that if you as a company, and you have to make some tough decisions sometimes, and if those decisions require you to either lay off or furlough some of your employees, I would encourage you to please go to Workforce Georgia or wherever, WorkSource Atlanta, wherever you are. They can provide free services to your employees, because I know that it's very hard to make these tough decisions. And so please know that there is entities out there that will provide free services to your businesses, but that will help your employees. And we all are thinking about the recovery, so you need those employees back. So please use their resources. We also have Invest Atlanta Live, and these are on Facebook Live. You can chime into them. They're every Tuesday and Thursday. We are talking to businesses on the ground who are pivoting, coming up with new ideas, or talking about some of their challenges. And the idea is we want businesses to hear from other businesses about what are they doing to try to help with this, or during this difficult time. So sometimes it's one thing for us to say it, but if another business can tell you exactly what they're going through, it could be a learning moment. So we are putting those together. Please go to our website. You can catch as many as you can. Interestingly, we had one today, and I have a brewery that's pivoting to creating PPEs. So really, we're seeing shift in our entrepreneurs. Our entrepreneurs are some of the most agile individuals that I've ever met. And so they are coming up with some great ideas on how they address the situation. I will also echo, I think it was Chris said before I did, and I think all of the panelists probably have websites that are available to you. I highly, highly encourage you to go to our websites and find your information, either links to the SBA or what the latest legislation is, or just what information is out there in grants, because I want to make sure that businesses hear that there are some people out there that do not have the best intention for your business. And I have seen cases of when they're coming in and saying they're going to help you fill out an application, you give them the money, and then they're gone. So during this difficult time, please make sure that the sources you're going to are reliable sources and that are just guiding you in the right direction. So just please be very careful. The last thing I would make sure I'd like to highlight, Alicia, if I can, is that there are 2 new programs that the mayor has that in there is working to bring online. And so the first one she has talked about is Strength and Beauty, if you've heard. She's posted on her social media. And this is an idea, cosmetology industry is a huge industry in our city and in our state. And they have been impacted very, very much so, as they have not been able to go to work. And so we are looking to try to capitalize a grant program for them. She's launched the fundraising effort. And so as soon as we can get enough dollars in there, we will begin to administer this grant program from anyone in the cosmetology sector. The other one that we'll be working on and she'll be announcing is in our creative industry. So really the idea now is we've touched on the initial response. We are now in recovery. We want to ensure that Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, the heart of what I would say is Georgia, can definitely, and heart by heart, I mean the region, how do we recover in an effective and efficient manner? And so that we could see a recovery in less, 6 months, 6 to 10 months if we have to. We want to make sure it's swift and that we can continue to support our small businesses and ultimately our employees in this city. Thank you.
I love how you say effective and efficient, because we have one person who just wrote in who said that they are a recipient of Invest Atlanta and said that it was an absolute lifesaver and it was a quick process. So we want to thank you for your leadership and thank you for Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' leadership in making sure that we help businesses during this critical time.
Alicia, and if I could say, I did not ask that person to join. And you know what? Thank you. Because oftentimes, as many of us know, bad news runs very quickly, but good news. So I thank you that you responded and you put that in there and that it's helping you. It's great news.
Absolutely. Mr. Andrews is with Unity National Bank. And Mr. Andrews, we understand that having a great banking relationship is very critical at all times, but particularly at this time. Could you please share with us some of the best practices in working with your bank for the Paycheck Protection Program? Mr. Andrews?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, let me say, thank Congressman John Lewis for his leadership. I have lived in his district for many years, and he has been a champion for fighting any type of cause for the citizens of Southwest Atlanta and Georgia as a whole. And thank you, Alicia Ivy, because you have been a leader in our community. Putting on this webinar is extremely important for the small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I'm talking about the small businesses, the mom and pop. Let me start by saying, where you decide to apply will increase the probability of you receiving that PPP funding. We have heard all of the stories about the big major franchises receiving the bulk of the PPP money. For instance, Ruth Chris, big organization. That organization received a lot of money, millions of dollars in funding. The problem we have with the system is that the mom and pops, I'm talking about the beauty shops, the barber shops, the small funeral homes, the florists, all of these neighborhood businesses, if you will, they need help in maneuvering through the system. It might seem uncomplicated, but for a person that has never ever filled out this application and had to provide this type of information, it could be difficult. And we in the community banking arena, we are here to hold hands, to maneuver through some of the problems that these small businesses may face. For instance, with a large institution, if you haven't dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, your application is kicked out and maybe put at the bottom of the stack. Mm-hmm. With us, we call you immediately and tell you what you're missing, what you need, or to provide clarity and put you right up front where you belong again, keep you up there. So we are that institution that's really, really committed to making sure you get that type of financing known as the PPP. Now, another thing, we don't require you to be a customer of this bank. And certainly we don't require you to have a loan from this bank. Only thing we require you to be committed to serving your community as a very good business. And we want to be that bank that provides you with this funding because we know, and we take our job very, very seriously. We know that we are that safety net between you and you being in business. So I love to talk with anybody out there that might need help in providing the information necessary for the application. We do this, and again, we do it whether you are a customer or a non-customer. And I would invite everybody to go on my website, if I may give you that website.
Absolutely.
That's unitybanktexas.com. Again, unitybanktexas.com. And you go to the top of the page, you click on PPP, and you go to the portal. The portal will read Atlanta customers. Fill out that information, and we will put you right into the system, and we will make sure we do everything humanly possible to get you that money before it runs out. Because I can assure you that even though it's being refunded, this money will run out, and it will run out quickly. So I'm encouraging everybody out there, do it today. Make sure your application is in today to get that PPP funding. And I will do everything humanly possible to make sure that we get that funding for you. And you can call me directly. I'm gonna give you my office number. It's 404-588-9611. That's 404-588-9611. I'm gonna give you another officer number, Michael Green. His phone number is 404-609-3463. 404-609-3463. We will make sure that we answer your questions and get you back in line to get that funding that you may need. Community banks exist for moments like this.
Mr.
Whether
Andrew,
you have one employee or whether you have 500 employees, we are here to serve you.
Mr. Andrew, thank you so much for that. I want to also make sure to ask you, if you are not a customer of Unity National Bank, are you allowed to come and bank with Unity in order to apply for the PPP or EIDL?
We treat you the same, whether you have been banking with us for 3 or 4 years, or whether you just walk through the door, or whether you have an account with us at all. We want you to get that money. We need for you to get that money. We represent the small businesses of our community. So we need for you to thrive. We need for you to employ people so that we can have a vibrant community. We know that small businesses really provide the engine that runs the economy. Certainly in the minority community, that's the case.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Winsinger, what pandemic-specific resources are available to small businesses at the Small Business Development Center?
I'd like to echo everyone else also in saying thank you so much to Congressman John Lewis and his wonderful staff and the panelists that he's pulled together for this, because this is an extraordinary time. We've never been through a pandemic before. The UGA Small Business Development Center, for those of you who don't know, offers all sorts of assistance across the state. We are a public service outreach unit of the University of Georgia, and we work hand in hand with small business owners on whatever it is that they need. Right now, they need recovery. So we have some webinars. You can look online at georgiasbdc.org, and that Georgia is spelled out, Georgia, SBDC.org, and /training. And you can see all the different offerings that we have. We have a Conquering the Business Crisis webinar that we're doing actually out of the DeKalb office this Friday at 11. And the cost is nothing, because we're trying to bring that to all the people who need that. We're also doing all of the time, we do one-on-one business consulting. We meet with business owners. Right now we're doing it virtually, but that is at no cost to you, no direct cost, because you've paid for it with your taxes. We are a resource partner of the SBA, and we are very proud of that association, but we are not the SBA. So we don't control whether or not you get any monies from the relief funds. But what we do is work with you hand in hand. As Mr. Andrews was saying, a lot of business owners are very confused. Which one can I apply for? Which one makes sense for me to apply for? What are the formulas? How do I qualify? Do I not qualify? I'm a single sole proprietor. I'm an LLC. All these questions. We have the answers. We have 17 offices across the state. We have 5 in the metro area. We are in your district. There's a Georgia State University campus of UGA SBDC. There's one at Kennesaw State. There's one at Clayton State. There's one in Gwinnett. And we are in DeKalb, right there near North Lake Mall. And of course, we're not in our office right now. We're meeting virtually. But we're literally taking calls and emails and doing virtual meetings as much as possible. And we're going to continue to roll out a number of different resources that will help you in the recovery on the specific areas. For some people, that means more training in finance. One of the biggest things I saw when these programs rolled out was that people thought, okay, well, how do I fill this out? I have no information what they're giving me. And so you need to know those finances. You need to know all your financial numbers. If you don't know it, guess what? We can teach it to you. It's really that simple. We will sit down and work with you, go over the basics, go over the principles, show you what you can do to get yourself prepared to fill out the information, because you have to have your financial numbers ready. Just because the IRS said that they're going to defer you filing your taxes doesn't mean you don't need that information ready, because that's what you need to put on your applications. And so I just encourage everyone to check us out. Our website is full of all kinds of great information for recovery and also just for strengthening your business, because we never know when a pandemic is going to hit. We didn't know this was going to hit. You never know when a hurricane, I'm from South Georgia, so we were always preparing for hurricanes and tornadoes and that kind of thing. But you know, a disaster is a disaster. And yes, this is a little different. Yes, this is brand new territory, but if you're not prepared, it's all the same. Right? So what we want to make sure is that you have the principles in hand, that you talk to an expert. We are not just willing, we're enthusiastic about doing what we do. We love helping business owners because that's who we are as well. We have backgrounds, we have, you know, at least 5 years experience in small business ownership or managing or living in, or you pretty much, if you own the business, it owns you, right?
That's right.
We also have MBAs, but we have every imaginable expertise you can think of. In the DeKalb office alone, we have 4 different consultants. I'm the area director there, but I'm also a consultant. So my background is in marketing and sales and economic development and customer service. But we also have a guy who used to work with the SBA who did disaster loans in Puerto Rico. He also is an expert at efficiency and construction. And then we have another guy who owned an Ace Hardware, and he's an accounting finance person. He also has a lot of ag background because he grew up on a peach farm. And then we have another guy who came from us from Microsoft, and he does digital marketing and sales, and he does a lot of digital media. He's the techno wizard I turn to for everything. But we share all of those skills with our business owners, and we encourage you to reach out. And if you're listening and you're not in the Atlanta metro area, that's fine. There's a local SBDC near you. Check us out at georgiasbdc.org. And also, if you want to give the DeKalb office a jingle, it's 770-414-3110.
Ms. Rainsucker, you're absolutely right. During these times, it's so important to have that one-on-one conversation with someone that you can really trust right now. And
absolutely.
so
everything you say to us is confidential too. Everything you say is confidential to us. We don't go around and tell your competitors. So that's a key. You hit on it. That's one thing that we have to break through the trust barrier a lot of times to get to the real problem. We don't judge. We just want to help.
That's wonderful. And so at this time in this pandemic, it is so good to have a trusted, reliable voice and someone you can talk to directly, even if it's virtually. The SBDC is there for you. Could you repeat that email, a website, and also the telephone number for us, please?
Absolutely. Our website is www.georgia, spelled out Georgia, SBDC, as in Small Business Development Center.org. Our training is georgiasbdc.org/training. That's where you can find all the different classes we're offering. Most of them are free, and they're virtual. And also our office email is decab@georgiasbdc.org. Our phone number, 770-414-3110. And please do reach out. If it's not even my office that you need to talk to, I will get you the number for the office that you need to talk to.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Rainseeker. Commissioner Mark Butler, how are you today? Thank you so much for being with us.
Tired.
I know that you are. You're getting quite the workout these days, I'm sure.
Yes, and to kind of tell you a little bit about that workout that we're having right now, is all of our employees. Our employees are putting in 7-day work weeks right now, some of them 10 and 14-hour days. And the reason for that is in just 4 short weeks, we've seen over 1 million unemployment claims filed. By the way, that is...
Can I just ask you for a moment to put that into context? Before COVID and now COVID, what were the numbers before and now after?
I'll put it this way, 1 million claims in 4 weeks. That is more claims than we had in the previous 3 years combined.
Wow.
And matter of fact, it's as much, if not more, claims filed in 4 weeks than we saw in the worst year of the recession. Now, the big difference there is, during that worst year of the recession, we had twice as many employees because we could build up during a recession. We would have time. It's because a normal recession happens at a slower pace. And so you can add employees, train them, add volume. But when something happens as quick as this, you don't have the ability to do that. You just basically kind of just, take what's in front of you and move on. The good news is, we have been processing a lot of claims. So, matter of fact, we're one of the top states as far as processing claims right now. And so that's something Georgia can be proud of. But we still have a lot of work to do. And up to this date so far, we've actually paid out state and federal benefits a little over $1 billion in 4 weeks, which is an astonishing amount of money if you think about it in just 4 short weeks. So we have a lot of things going on right now. When you consider the total volume of claims that are coming in, we've had to lean on a lot of technology to find ways to do a lot of auto processing and trying to find ways to make these things kind of move faster. Several of the federal programs that have been introduced have been somewhat challenging, especially to try to put together in a very short amount of time. One of those, which is going fully active today, was the unemployment program that people have heard about for individuals who are the gig workers, the ones that had previously not been able to get unemployment before, because unemployment that you see right now, or what I call regular state unemployment, that's for individuals where their employers have paid into the system, pay a premium on them, and they're covered. The gig workers, they typically, and there's a way they can pay them, but typically they don't. They're 1099 workers. They just take the money and they spend it, however, but they typically don't participate in the system. So in this bill, they decided to go ahead and allow them to get unemployment benefits. And there was no state system in any state that existed to handle those type of claims. So our IT department, after we got the rules and regulations from U.S. Department of Labor, we literally had to build an intake and payout system, an application from scratch to do that. And they did it in roughly about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now understand, that's something that should have taken, in normal times, what you would have taken 6 to 8 months to come up with something like that and fully test it, vet it, make sure everything's, but they pulled it together in 2 weeks. I told somebody it's almost like during World War II when they could build a factory in 6 months and have, 15,000 planes coming out of it within, 16 months. That's what I felt like those guys have been able to do. And so obviously a lot of big challenges. We're getting to those. The big issue right now is dealing with an extreme high call volume because it is virtually impossible to have enough people to answer the phones right now and also be able to handle these claims. When you're talking about possibly 250,000 calls a day with 1,000 employees statewide, it's an impossible situation. So we're doing our best we can to try to get to the phones. and also get these claims processed. The good news is, so far we've been able to hit all of our marks and all of our targets as far as putting these new programs online. The next new program we have to put online is going to be the extended benefits, the federal extended benefits. We should have that online shortly, in just a couple of weeks, because that's going to also
tell us a little bit about
some
the extended benefits. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the extended benefits, you know, there's different ways you can look at that. If you just now started to file, those are going to be automatic for you. But say if you were somebody going all the way back to last summer, and you had a claim that has since then exhausted, you'll be able to come in and apply for 13 additional weeks that you'll be able to pick up. And we're going to try to write in some scripts. So those individuals that are about to run out right now, so maybe they had a claim that started back in, say, February, they don't get to get the state extended benefits that we added in because we can't grandfather that in legally. So we're going to work out a way to where at a date certain, they will just pick those up automatically. But folks who've exhausted benefits some time ago, they will have to do reapply for that extended benefits, but we're going to try to make that a very fast process.
Okay, thank you so much for that overview. We're going to take a small pause for a minute, and the staff is going to show us a slideshow of all the panelists and some information that we'll need that's important to all small businesses. So please just hold tight for one moment and they'll get that put up momentarily. So this is information that you certainly can find very useful. And if you need this information for your own purposes, this is the information of all the panelists, so that you'll have that for your own information. And if you'll go to the next slide, please. This will simply take you through what the CARES Act is. And so if you need this information, once again, it'll be available to you online. Next slide, please. And the other agencies that are available to help small businesses that will play into the role in helping us to move forward. So if you have any other information that you need, again, it will be online for you. Please look at all of these slides. They are prepared for your information. It goes over the Fulton County programs, Federal Reserve Bank, the Chamber of Commerce, Invest Atlanta, local banks, and Small Business Development Center. Now we'll go into the question and answers. We have a lot of questions here. We'll take the first question from Libby Anthony to Ms. Terry Dennison. Ms. Dennison, are there any specific programs for local entertainers who work at hotel clubs and similar venues if they're considered gig workers?
There is not a specific program. You would be eligible for both the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and as a sole proprietor or a 1099 employee or independent contractor. Technically, they're not employees. There is provisions in that act where they can apply for it, but there's not anything designated for that specific niche.
Thank you. Also, there is one other question for you, Ms. Dennison. As a small business owner, is there any funding available to me personally or for my small business if I have not yet filed my 2018 and 19 taxes yet? I am working diligently to finalize them. This is from one of our attendees.
Yeah, I think, and you would have to have at least had your 18 done. We understand that the 19, was in progress before all this started, and that's been, the deadline for that's been postponed. But I think you have to have had your 18. I could go back. I'm trying to think. I typed in the chat our general mailbox, so if that person could send me an email just to follow up, because it may be possible that if there are financial statements, that could work for the EIDL. I just need to double check that. So if they could just send me that question to georgia@sba.gov.
Sure.
We can get back to them.
One other question, Ms. Denson.
Sure.
From Ms. Schock. As the owner of an S Corp, we have applied for the PPP through SunTrust Tourist Bank, and we were not able to get even an application. Ashley Bell mentioned fintech. I'm not sure of the spelling, she says. Is there another avenue for S Corps to get the PPP application for the next round? And how do we get in contact with fintech?
Okay, a couple things there. The S corporation, the fact that you're an S corp doesn't automatically preclude you from taking advantage of PPP. I think that's more of an issue of, one, the funds ran out, and probably what happened there, they, I don't know if they didn't have an account with them prior. That may be a reason why they were able to obtain an application, even though you can go to our website and pull it directly. Fintech is really a descriptor or for financial technology, and it's basically entities that leverage technology to deliver financial services. So, for example, some of those that have been approved to deliver PPP are Square and PayPal, Cabbage, other similar entities. That's the fintech group, if you will, or industry. So you could go to their websites or do a Google search, fintech, FINTECH, entities approved for PPP, and they'll come up.
Thank you. Well, this message is for Ms. Ruby Rensinger. Ms. Rensinger, this is a question for you from Ms. Johnson. Are there any resources for businesses that are in the development phase that we do not have to lose the momentum towards moving into full operations? Ms. Rensinger, are you still with us?
Yes. It depends on where they are. I mean, of course, we have resources. We'll help you every step of the way. It depends on where they are as to what the answer would be as for what they would need. But we do help people with business plans. We help people with all sorts of strategies, coming up with their mission statements, their core values, all that good stuff that they need for a solid footing. And we teach them the basics that they need to move forward. As far as funding, we would help them find whatever it is that they would qualify for and help them look. So yes, please do contact us. We'd be happy to work with someone who's still developing.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews, this question is for you. If we are not a member of your bank, where would the PPP money be deposited?
We ask the individual to open up an account with us, not to apply for the loan, but to have the loan funded once they receive the money. Now, again, that's an ask, and I think right now, everybody that we funded so far have been very gracious. Obviously, we've been able to help individuals where they were unsuccessful in going to one of their big regional partners. So we think that it makes sense to start a relationship with the institution that provides you the funding. So we would encourage that individual to open an account with us and perhaps keep that account with us even after they receive the funding. But it is not required to have an account open to process the application.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Andrews, can you also tell us a little bit about how Unity's approach with helping small businesses when applying for the payroll protection plan, and also what other resources are available in terms of funding?
Absolutely. We specialize in small business financing. We do SBA lending when there's not an epidemic or a pandemic. We have an array of products to assist small businesses, such as a very liberal credit facility known as receivable financing. You might have that big contract out there and you need money right away to fulfill the contract. Well, we will lend against contracts. We're one of the few banks that will help you get that contract funded, because we know that this might be a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you to really get a major contract. So we provide that facility. We also provide the traditional mortgages for a owner-occupied building. We encourage people to own, not rent. And we have a large portfolio of individuals, businesses, I should say, that have benefited from that. Now, with the PPP, which is the number one sought after product at this particular time, we, as I said, we do the hand holding. We make sure that your application receive all the attention that it needs in order to be approved. And I gave out the numbers to individuals that can assist in the process. And one good thing about working with Unity National Bank is we don't put your application at the bottom of the stack if you do not have all your documentation together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andrews. Ms. Dennison, there is one other question for you. We submitted our PPP loan application to an approved lender with whom we had a relationship on the first day of the applications were accepted on April the 3rd. We've been told that our application was complete and correct, and that the application would be processed in the order in which it was received. Nonetheless, our loan was not processed before the funds ran out. How can we avoid the same thing happening in the second wave of PPP loans? This question is from Ms. Page.
Okay. Probably what happened is, just to kind of give a little bit of background, there's really two segments, and I think my video has frozen, but you can hear me. There's an application from the borrower to the lending institution, and that's the first cut. They'll check everything that needs to be checked. If they're wanting to support that application, then the lender submits it to the SBA for the guarantee, because these loans are 100% guaranteed by the SBA. I suspect what happened is it may have gone through the lender's process, and then about the time it was to go to SBA is probably the time that that we ran out of funds. So I don't think they might want to double check their lender, but they don't necessarily have to start over.
Thank you. Thank you. One other question, Ms. Dennison, from Jack Hillman. Must the loan be spent within 8 weeks at 75% payroll, 25% for utilities, and health insurance to be forgiven? Could you please expound on that question?
Okay, the statute doesn't specifically say that, but I think probably from a practical standpoint, it will, because when you get ready to ask for the forgiveness of the loan, which you can do, I think you can put in your request at week 7, of the 8 weeks, from the time of the distribution. You have to show that, you have to be able to show your records that you've spent X amount on payroll, X amount on the other things that are permissible. So I think from a practical standpoint, you will have had to spend pretty much all of it, if not all of it.
Ms. Rensinger, this question is for you. What are some of the mistakes that you've seen on applications?
The biggest thing that I have noticed on the applications is that people didn't have their financial information ready. Whether or not they knew what that was, or maybe they hadn't prepared their taxes for 2019, but they didn't have any idea of what their information was that they needed to gather. And generally on the applications, you have to know what your total revenue is for 2019 and what your cost of goods sold. That's for the EIDL. The banks have their own application, and of course you're still going to need to know that financial information. I'm urging everyone to make sure that you unlock your credit, because they will check your credit, and if you don't have it unlocked, then they can't do that. My best advice is, if you have any concerns or worries, or you're having trouble with it, please call the Georgia SBDC, because University of Georgia SBDC, we were here before the pandemic. We're going to be here long after the pandemic. We support the SBA, and we want to make sure that all of the different business owners, whether that's onesie twosie, you know, a solopreneur or up to 499 employees, that you have the same service available to you. And we will make sure that we call you or do a virtual meeting with you and walk through the process and explain the different programs to you, and explain the differences so you can see which one matters to you the most.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, some questions that we needed to ask regarding the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. Please let us know if there are any kind of best practices that you all think that small business owners should keep in mind during this time.
Thanks for that question. If you go to our website, gachamber.com/COVID-19, we've actually got a packet of information there that has the 20 guidelines. They're not best practices, they're actually guidelines that you have to follow if you're going to have these minimum business operations. Later this week, we'll publish another document that has a little more best practice approach to it if you want to kind of go above and beyond. But I think the most important thing is to start with the basics. And if you can do those 20, you're going to protect your employees and your customers. That's the most important thing to do, is follow those 20, because those 20 are, quite frankly, you should view those as that's the law. It's the governor's executive order. You've got to do those 20. CDC has a lot of good guidelines too. I think they are reflected in the governor's executive order. But stay tuned into our website, but start with that packet and that list of 20.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Georgia Chamber is working hand in hand with the governor's office, or does it have its own lobbyists, or both? Please let us know.
So the Georgia Chamber is an independent organization. We're made up of businesses just like those folks on the call. We're not part of government arm. We're making recommendations to the governor, just like we're making recommendations to the senators and the congressmen about what our business is here. And we feel our job right now is to take that information and share it back with our members and help give them the best practices and the best direction, so they can comply with whatever orders that the governor and his team deliver. But I will say this governor's been great about listening to recommendations, reaching out and asking what business thinks, and then making decisions based on science. And what we've said from day one, since this coronavirus started, was look at the data, look at the science. That's not a business's job. We don't understand the science. Let the scientists make those decisions and just tell us what the rules are, and we'll follow the rules and we'll do our part. Free enterprise is a great thing. We can rise or fail on our own, but at the end of the day, we have to take personal responsibility, and that's what we're trying to help businesses do right now.
Thank you.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Dennison, there's one other question from Ms. Shirley. Is the PPP based on credit worthiness? Ms. Dennison, are you with us?
PPP?
Yes.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
The answer to that question is, insofar as the application is being taken by a commercial lender and the funds are going to come from the commercial lender, SBA is just coming in on the backside to guarantee, that would be one of the things that would be looked at. And that's the same with the EIDL as well. They will pull the credit to look at the person's credit worthiness as part of the decision process.
Citizen, what helpful hints can you give small businesses moving forward?
Oh, is this for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, moving forward. Well, definitely some lessons learned from this. One, I think we have to look at how do we define being a lending institution's client. Many people were surprised, they had a bank account with certain lending institutions, only to find out that, that wasn't going to cut it for applying for PPP. They actually had to have some kind of debt relationship, in terms of a line of credit, a credit card as opposed to a debit card, or an actual loan. So probably one of the things I would recommend is, get a business credit card or a small line of credit. And if you have the cash flow to cover, fine, use the card, use the line, and then just pay everything off at the end of the month, so that you have that type of relationship established. One thing too, we're going to have to rethink is business disruption insurance. A lot of businesses had that, thinking that this would be covered, this particular situation, only to find out when they submitted a claim that it wasn't. So I think that there's going to be a lot of review around that, not only from the small businesses standpoint in determining, finding out what they need and making sure they're getting what they think they've gotten, but looking at it from an industry standpoint, what can we do and what can the insurance industry do to cover a situation like this? Business planning, it's not just for when you're starting the business. You really should have an ongoing plan and always look at it. I always say, look at it in 3 different ways. Most likely scenario, best case scenario, if things go better than you think, but also have a plan for if revenues do drop below projections. Know when, at what point, you're going to really run into trouble. Know what your break-even point is. I think a lot of people kind of go through this very intuitively, and I think we need to be better understand the numbers that come with business operations and how to monitor those and know what's going to happen to those numbers in any, general situations.
Thank you. I don't know if Commissioner Butler is still on with us today. Commissioner Butler, are you still with us? I think that he had to go to another meeting and possibly make sure that the leadership at the department or the Department of Labor is processing all of those claims. But we did have a very important question for him, and we will make sure that he addresses that question respectively to the participant that asked the question. There is one other question, Ms. Dennison. You're a popular person today. Can a business owner apply for PPP, EIDL, and unemployment simultaneously?
Oh, I can't address the unemployment so much, but in terms of the EIDL and the PPP, the answer to that is yes, you can. The caveat is that you cannot use the monies from each one for the same things. So once again, keeping in mind, Paycheck Protection Program, emphasis on paycheck and payroll, you would use that loan to cover definitely those expenses. EIDL, on the other hand, there isn't a specific percentages or allocations on how you have to use the monies, as long as those uses are eligible. So it can include your accounts payables, your ongoing monthly expenses, fixed costs, etc. So you'd have to kind of think it through a little bit in terms of how much you need and which combination between the two would work. If you got your EIDL first and then went for a PPP loan, you have to include in that request for the PPP the EIDL loan, because you would basically take out the EIDL loan with proceeds from the PPP, basically, once again, to ensure that you're not using monies for the same purpose from the 2 programs.
Thank you so much for that. In closing, small businesses and the community leaders, I hope that you all have found some insightful information for the path forward. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email Congressman Lewis' office and check out his website at johnlewis.house.gov for updates. Please don't hesitate to also sign up for his electronic newsletter. I want to thank all of our panelists, Ms. Terry Dennison, Mr. Chris Clark, Ms. Ruby Rensinger, Mr. Jason Aruk, Mr. George Andrews, and Ms. Commissioner Natalie Hall. And if I've missed anyone else, please forgive me. But I want to thank all of them for their leadership and their time and dedication to small businesses. Remember, we cannot give up, we cannot give in, and tough times don't last, but tough people do. I want to thank you for the privilege of your time, and on behalf of Congressman John Lewis, we thank you, and please make sure that you continue to stay strong in your businesses. Have a great evening.